Hello S2 and welcome to your next lesson in the World War I topic. Now, what you're looking to think about here is what is the difference between them. So both men fought in World War I. So what's the difference between the two? Well, the picture on the left hand side is actually a soldier at the start of World War I having his photo taken with his uniform on. The picture on the right is a couple of years into the war, having spent time in the trenches. You could see there how his kit has changed, very muddy, looks a lot more tired, grown a beard as well. Now, both of these pictures are actually the same man. Okay, so one is on the left hand side, as I said, of the soldier at the start of the war having his picture taken for an official photograph, and on the right hand side is after a couple of years into the war spending time in the trenches. So both are actually the same man. So this shows you the impact that war could have on men at this time. Now, what we're focusing on in this lesson is the Battle of the Somme from July to November 1916. So in your jotter, or if you're doing this on a Word document, if you want to put the heading, the Battle of the Somme, July to November 1916. Now, what we're learning today, we're looking to investigate if the Battle of the Somme was a bloodbath or a necessity. So, by the end of the lesson, we're looking to describe the aims and objectives of warfare, explain why there are different interpretations of the battle, so why some people think it was a success and why some people think it was a failure, and make a judgment on the success of the battle. So your starter task, what you're being asked to do to start with, is you're looking to work through the three stages of the battle. So think back to our lessons on the trench conditions and the weapons used to help you. So you've got to think about you are now part of a command unit, so you must plan the stages of the latest offensive to attack the German trenches. So this is what you have here. So you need to decide which weapon/tactics you would use to attack/defend and why. So you've got it on the left hand side here. You're going to be attacking a German trench. The Germans are well defending their bunkers and their trenches. What weapons might you want to use in this situation? So think back to last lesson. What tactics would you use? So how are you going to get into the other trenches and win? You'll need to move quickly across no man's land because the Germans will start firing once they figure out what is going on. So what weapons might be useful here and why, and what tactics would you use? Again, you're in the enemy trench, so you will not have a lot of room and close quarter fighting might take place. What weapons will you want now and what tactic might you use? So have a think about this for a start activity, what sort of weapons and tactics you might use. So you want to pause the video at this point to complete this activity. Okay, so lions led by donkeys. Now this is a phrase commonly associated with the Battle of the Somme. Now who do you think this means? Who are the lions and who are the donkeys? Well, the lions are supposed to be the British soldiers who are out there fighting on the front line during this battle. They are the lions. And the donkeys are meant to be the British commanders who were in charge of the army. So this is a common phrase used to describe the Battle of the Somme, that lions, so the bravery of the soldiers out there fighting, were led by donkeys. So the commanders with very poor tactics. Now you may recognise this stadium here. This is Wembley Stadium. Now Wembley Stadium has a capacity of 90,000 people. Now if we times that by 14, that works out as the amount of casualties that there were from the Battle of the Somme. So we had 420,000 British casualties, 200,000 French casualties and 500,000 German casualties. So enough to fill Wembley Stadium 14 times over. So that shows you the amount of people that were actually killed in this battle, the amount of casualties that there were. So it was a huge battle with heavy losses in terms of people being killed or injured. Now the Battle of the Somme, this is actually an aerial photograph here of the site where the Battle of the Somme took place today, and you could actually still see part of the trench system that exists there, and you could see some of the crater holes that have been left from the shells as well. Now what was happening by 1916? Now the war had reached a stalemate, so that meant that neither side was really making any ground, but we're at a stalemate. It was a draw at the moment. Fighting had become a bit more intense and both sides had tried to reach a breakthrough. Now December 1915, the Allied commanders decided a joint French and British attack should take place. Now this here is General Douglas Haig. He was actually the commander of the British Army at this time. Now this was his objective, so he was looking to draw away the German forces from Verdun in France. He was looking to kill as many Germans as possible through the war of attrition, so try and wear the enemy down, and he was looking to gain land and push the Germans back. So this is the plan that he had versus the reality. So he thought his plan was that ultimately he would shell the German trenches and send many shells across, and that would lead to the German trenches being destroyed, their artillery being destroyed, their fortifications being destroyed, and he would use artillery to spot any aircraft or anything that might be going on. And ultimately his idea was that the British troops would be able to get out over their trenches and just walk across no man's land, and the Germans would either be destroyed or surrender. However, you'll see here the reality was very different. Now the Germans, when this bombing took place, went into their deep dugouts and were able to survive. Their artillery survived, and a lot of their defences survived. Although their trenches were slightly damaged, a lot of troops survived as well. So that meant that when the British troops stepped out to go over the trenches, the Germans were actually still there and were able to fire at will against the British soldiers who were advancing. And a lot of low cloud reduced aerial artillery spotting as well. Now, activity 1, what you're looking to do is to draw the following table in your jotter. So you've got here Battle of the Somme plan and Battle of the Somme reality. Now, you're looking to use the information on the next slide to complete the table detailing the difference between the plan for the Battle of the Somme, so what was the plan and what was the reality. Now, you should try and use a mixture of images and annotations if you want to, so you could draw pictures on one side of your table and the other side, you could take notes, it's up to you how you want to fill this out, but you're looking to get the Battle of the Somme, what the plan was and what this actually was like in reality. Okay, so here's the first picture that you could use. So you've got here plan, reality, so you could use this here to help you to take notes on either side of your table, add any sketches if you want to as well. You've also got here the plan, so you've got some information here that you could use. So you'll see here the attack would begin with the British firing explosive shells at the Germans for a whole week to destroy their defences. The British commanders believed that the explosives would kill all the Germans, so the British foot soldiers would be easily able to walk towards it, walking place. The advancing foot soldiers would be able to take over the German trenches, closely followed by the soldiers on horseback, who would then ride through the enemy positions, breaking them in two. So that was the plan. The reality was very different, so the week-long firing of explosive shells actually warned the enemy that an attack was coming, and this gave them plenty of time to prepare for it. The German trenches were very well made. Remember, they got former coal miners to dig their trenches and heavily defended. The German soldiers were able to hide in them until the attack by the British foot soldiers began. The explosives had badly damaged the ground, throwing up lots of mud and making the British move forward very difficult. And when the soldiers finally attacked, each group of soldiers was simply shot down by enemy gunfire. So you'd use the information from the picture and from the two slides that we've just discussed there to fill in your table. What was the plan of the Battle of the Somme and what actually happened in reality? Now, the Somme, success or failure. Now, different people at different times have had different interpretations, so different views of the Battle of the Somme. Some people say the bloodiest day in the British Army's history due to the amount of losses. Other people say the first time in the war that planned objectives had been taken. So on one hand, failure. 19,240 British deaths on the first day alone of the Battle of Somme. 60,000 total dead or wounded on the first day. By the end of the battle, 420,000 British, 200,000 French and 500,000 German deaths. And after 5 months of fighting, the Allies had only advanced 7 miles. So that's some reason why people think it was a failure. Also, untrained men, untested tactics, inadequate artillery, and they underestimated the enemy. On the other hand, some people do think it was a success. There was a capture of position at southern end. There was lessons learned from this battle about tactics and weapons that could be used. Verdun was saved. It gave the BEF much needed experience, so the British Expeditionary Force good experience of fighting, and the French were able to reorganise their army. So one of the key skills in history is making a judgment. Now, we've now had lots of information about the Battle of the Somme. You've completed your table task for the plan of the Somme and the reality. You've looked there at some arguments for it being a success and a failure. Now, as historians, we can make a judgment about the battle based on this information. So you need to think about, was the Battle of the Somme a success or a failure for the British Army? So what you've been asked to do, activity 2 here, is you've been asked to conduct an investigation into the Battle of the Somme for the British government. So the casualty have been low and the gains, casualty have been high, and the gains low. So you must decide if the battle was a success or a failure. So for activity 2, you need to imagine you're carrying out an investigation for the British government. You need to say, do you think the Battle of the Somme has been a success or has it been a failure? Okay, so over to you. What you're looking to submit via Teams from this lesson is the starter task, so the weapons and tactics you would use in the situation. Activity 1, so the Battle of the Somme, the plan versus the reality table, so what was the plan and what actually took place. And then activity 2, a letter deciding if the Battle of the Somme was a success or a failure. Any issues with anything discussed in this lesson, then just let your class teacher know. Thank you.